2 Corinthians 2 and 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakaha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. Now more so than ever, the would-be judges, the 144,000, and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black thing. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth and to reveal Satan here on earth and his operatives. And first of all, let me get another scripture. I think it's 2 Corinthians 11. Is it 2 and 11? I mean, I just read 2 and 11. Just bear with me one moment. Oh, okay. 2 Corinthians 11 and 22. I was right. It was 11. And it reads, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. So when you see that word black Israelites, what you're already looking at is propaganda or controlled composition or controlled opposition, or both. All right. Actually, you're looking at both. All right. Because the true men of the Lord do not refer to themselves as black. We know that there's no such thing as black people. Black is a social construct that they made up so that they can categorize. There are people in India that are darker than most black people that I've ever seen. Darker than many Africans, but they're not called black. All right. Let's get a receipt, because that's completely and totally a word that they created. All right, is both degrading. And here's a definition. I get this one from Murph. All right. Let's just bring it up to the screen. You see the cartoon that they put with it too. All right. It says black. Adjective, opposite of white, dirty, messy, without light, dark, illegal, dim, smuggled, sombre, disastrous, dismal, obscure, sullen, bad, temporal, angry, horrible, grotesque, malignant, unlucky, unhappy, depressed. White. Adjective, color of milk, fresh, snow, innocent, unstained, pure, unblemished, bright, what's that word? Revolution, auspicious, reliable, favorable, honorable, honest, upright, without bloodshed, free from guilt. And there's no people that spill more blood than white people. There's no people on the planet, or so-called white people, let me correct that. Well, there's no people on earth who is more guilty. Every place that they are on the planet, they taken via the sword, through rape, robbery, murder. Okay? That's what they did. There's a book called germs, steel, and war, or something to that effect. Let me see if I can find it. All right, because in 1681 in Virginia, they created that term, whiteness. No one was called, white prior to that. Okay? And they know that Negroes were Hebrews. So they added this black thing. As a matter of fact, here's a clipping from the newspaper from trying to see if I can see the year on here. I know this is an old newspaper from around the 1800s. The Negro Hebrews in New York, 300 in the city. Yeah, but I'm trying to find. All right, it says the Negro Hebrews in New York, 300 in the city, and all came from Jerusalem. From the Chicago Inter-Ocean, the New York, October 2nd, a Negro, 25 years old, who answered to the name Samuel, who Muskowitz, was arraigned yesterday in Essex Market Court, charged with disorderly conduct. Magistrate Meade said to him, Muskowitz, what have you to say in answer to this charge? Muskowitz made significant, and this was from the 1880s or 1890s. It says Muskowitz made signs indicating he did not understand the words of the magistrate. Your Honor, he is a Hebrew. All right. Interpreter Swartz, and he does not understand a word of English. What? A Negro Hebrew? I never heard of such a thing, said the magistrate. It's true, said the interpreter. There are about 300 of them in New York City, and they all come from Jerusalem. Lawyer Cohen, sworn as a witness, said, this prisoner is a Hebrew and is employed by a rabbi to write scrolls. I saw this occurrence myself. Because the prisoner speaks Hebrew, a large crowd constantly follows him. A crowd surrounded him this morning. The policeman came along and told Muskowitz to move on, thinking he was talking to a regular Negro. Muskowitz did not understand and did not move on. It appears to be a mistake all around. The magistrate discharged him without further evidence. All right. So he was arrested. But yeah, this is from a newspaper clip, and I believe it was the 1890s. It was 1898 or 1888 in New York, one or the other. So they didn't call him a black Hebrew. They just called him a Hebrew. All right. A Negro, a Hebrew. So when you're listening to that word black, like I said, that's a very negative, as you've heard the definition, a very negative construct that they created, a social construct. I had another one in here I was trying to find where it really goes deep into it. They even use the word nigritude, Clearly, I don't have though. That's in my book. I have the book, but I thought I put it in here. Okay, but let me do this one. Let me get this description. Then I'm going to play about 5 minutes of this video, because if you at first listen, you think that this is a very positive thing. In the way it is, because there's no enchantment against Jacob. And they do speak a lot of truths in this, and they start speaking over and over again. But when you get to the 15-minute mark, they try to connect the black Hebrews, which is no such thing, because you got Latinos, Native Americans, and the scattered Israelites among the heathen nations who have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a color thing. And they play to the ignorance of the people, because Americans and the world, for that much, has been miseducated about seed line and bloodline. And they've been taught color. All right. and your color does not determine your nationality. The bloodline, the seed line you came from does. All right. And if you look pale, all right, but your father is a melanated man, is a melanated Indian, a melanated Elamite from India that's darker than the African. All right. And but you look like your pale mother, you're still an Elamite from India. You're just a pale faced one. All right. It's as simple as that. And people have a hard time because for the last couple hundred years, Esau Edom has been lying about seed line and bloodline. Hence the reason for the whole DNA thing. They're trying to figure out who among white people are Israelites, who are actually from that dark, bloodline. But here, let's give you one scripture, all right, about the Lord, because they ignore the scriptures in the Bible that clearly tell you what the Lord looks like and what his people look like. All right. And they ignore that evidence. But this is Revelation 4:1. And it says, and after this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was as it were a trumpet talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will show you things which must be hereafter. And immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, the throne was set in heaven, and the one that sat on the throne, all right, and he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow about the throne, in a sight like unto an emerald. All right, so basically they were telling you that the Lord was a melanated man, a dark man. And here's the receipt and the evidence. Here's the image of a jasper and a sardine stone. Both people in that complexion. I'm close to one of those complexions. All right. What happened to my image? There it is. Okay. Someone with that skin color will be very, very ignorantly called black. All right. That's what they will be called. And they're nowhere near black. But that's what they will be called because that's what people have been conditioned to say. All right. But that's a jasper and a sardine stone. Okay. You can't get around that, man. So the Bible has been telling you all along. And like I said, in 2 Corinthians 11:22, it tells you, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Hebrew Israelites. Not black Israelites. Not black Hebrew Israelites. The Hebrew Israelites. Is redundant. They don't say the white Hebrew Israelites. As a matter of fact, outside of the fact of those of our people that happen to look like a so-called made-up term, a white person, the so-called white man is actually Esau Edom, the Hebrew Edomites. All right, they're Hebrew as well, but they're the Edomites because they are Jacob's twin brother, and that was a curse that came upon Edom. All right, he was red, he was pale, he had no melanin. He looked different from his parents, from his brother. And then that mark was on him and his seed forever. Just like the curses were on the Israelites forever. So without any further ado, the propaganda of Black Stories 24H, 24 hours, about Iran. And why would Iran be worried about the Hebrew Israelites? All right. So because two things are happening here. They're trying to connect the Hebrew Israelites to terrorism, to the T word. All right. So they're going to try and make a connection to Iran. All right. When the Hebrew Israelites are completely and 100% against Islam in every way, against all religions, against Christianity, and definitely against Black Lives Matter, which is a white organization, so-called, with brown faces. All right, Hebrew Israelites are completely against the mission statement and the people involved in Black Lives Matters. All right. Point blank, period. And we have no affiliation. The leaders of that organization are women who are against the natural relationship between a man and a woman, and the Hebrew Israelites are completely 144% against that. We believe that there's only two genders and that a man and a woman to be together, because that's what's written in the Bible. So they're trying to, so that's what they do in this video. They give you all this truth, but then they give you all this propaganda to try to attach the T word and attach the Israelites to something that they're clearly not a part of. All right. And that would be because in rounding a little bit over the 15-minute mark, they tell you that, they try to make that connection between the Hebrew Israelites and BLM. And there is no connection. That is a white lie, for lack of a better term.
CIA and FBI are monitoring Black Israelites right now. 1.
So remember, black, dirty, untrustworthy, murderous, filthy, sad, violent. All those words that are connected to the word black, when it's just simply Hebrew Israelites.
On shocking discovery, U.S. intelligence agencies are watching Black Israelites. The revelation that U.S. intelligence...
Now, we could have told you that, the way that they used to cut and come against our videos. They don't come against KKK and Nazi and national and white nationalist videos. They're still up.
Agencies, particularly the CIA and FBI, have placed the Black Israelite movement under intense surveillance, has ignited widespread debate and speculation, raising profound questions about the nature of state power, historical narratives, and the limits of religious and civil liberties. According to Iranian intelligence sources, American authorities perceive the movement as a potential destabilizing force, justifying covert monitoring and infiltration. This assertion invites...
Esau has always been afraid of Jacob raising up. They've always been afraid and don't want Israelites to have any sort of autonomous wealth or period. And they did that when they did all the drowned towns, when they burned down all the towns and settlements that so-called black people have built up here in America, where they were actually they were living better than many white communities, with their own schools, own banks, own movie theaters, own grocery stores, etc. And what did Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, do? They went into all those towns and they burned them to the ground. Rape, robbed, murdered, took over the properties. So that means the judges, the law, everybody was involved in it. The people who lost their land and their properties never got it back. Point blank, period. Then they got drowned towns. I think it's like 14 or 15 of them, where they just flooded them out, opened dams up, and flooded out the towns and built houses on the lakes that were created around these drowned towns. And the buildings and the graves and the tombstones of the black people that lived there, so-called, the Israelites that lived there, are still under that water.
Deeper reflection on the motivations behind such scrutiny, the extent of governmental intervention, and the broader philosophical implications of knowledge, control, and state authority. While Iran's claim may be shaped by its own geopolitical agenda, the mere suggestion that a religious community rooted in black identity and biblical heritage is being...
And remember, we don't acknowledge the black identity. We're not black. There's no such thing as black people. They made that shit up. That's why he keeps saying it and keep pushing it over and over again. It's a tactic. Isaiah. So, biblical stories, we don't need your fucking help. All right. We already know the CIA and the FBI is watching us. That's obvious. Even when we're out on the streets teaching, you used to say FBI surveillance on all our phones when we were teaching. We'd all see the Wi-Fi. This is Isaiah 29:15. And it reads, "Warn to them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh, and their works are in the dark. And they say, who seeth us? And who knoweth us?" All right. So we know that these unrighteous alphabet ran by, the small hats and by Edomites, are trying to shape a narrative to attack us, because they're going to turn this. And even though they're kind of admitting that we've been wronged as a people, but they don't care, because they've established this unrighteous kingdom and this unrighteous rulership, and they're going to do whatever's necessary to try and keep it. So to hell was right. To hell with giving you any justice, any reparations, any type of autonomous way of living. It's not going to happen. Not on their watch. All right. They are Esau, the enemy of Jacob, the Edomites. We are the Hebrew Israelites. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Jacob? So am I.
Being watched so closely by the U.S. government rekindles long-standing concerns about surveillance, racial politics, and the mechanisms through which dominant powers seek to regulate historical discourse.
Right. So look at that historical discourse from the 1960s all the way up to now. The Jim Crow laws. It got worse after slavery. Because during slavery, I can't, they were still murdering us and literally eating us. Go look into the book, The Delectable Negro. All right. But we had value to them. Once we got free, or not really free, but once we were free from the slave, from the natural slave masters, and got put into the hands of the government slave masters, we were able to move throughout the system, and we had all the know-how. Because, the Southern Kingdom, for the most part, and the Northern Kingdom did all the work. So they knew how to build, how to farm, how irrigation. They knew how to build houses, build roofs. They knew how to do all that. And so they did that, and they built up their own towns here in America, separate from Edomites, and were doing better than. Watch the movie Rosewood. Okay? That's a really good example. Then you had, the famous Tulsa, Oklahoma. You had the famous Black Belt here in Chicago, which most people didn't even know about. Bronzeville was called the Black Belt. All right? And all those ginormous mansions and all those buildings, those were erected by and controlled by so-called black people. You still got a lot of some black people that own a lot of those buildings in that area, in the Bronzeville area, to this day. And and Edom has moved in there and bought it up but they destroyed it in the that was destroyed in 1919 during the Red Summer, which means it was an orchestrated thing across America. And the FBI and the CIA didn't do anything about that. And like I said, the judges and the lawyers, the policemen, the sheriffs, everybody was involved. Because those people that lost their land, their property, and their lives, they were never able to go back into those neighborhoods and get their money out of the banks to get their properties back, or any of that. Those properties that were still standing after those places were destroyed were confiscated and spread throughout so-called white citizens that now live in those houses and on homes and on those lands. Point blank, period.
The Black Israelite movement has long occupied a space of fascination, controversy, and misrepresentation. At the core of its belief system is the assertion that African Americans, along with other people of color, are the true descendants of the biblical Israelites.
So they admit that there's other people of color. So why are you calling them black? And that is not only an assertion, it is absolutely 100% true. The history backs it up.
This claim challenges conventional Judeo-Christian teachings and Western historical narratives.
What's Judeo-Christian teaching and Western historical narratives are completely fabrications. They don't match up with scripture. They don't match up with history at all. We proved that 1,000 times over. 1,000 times over. As a matter of fact, let's let this little Edomite girl tell you, this young Edomite lady, break it all down. I decided to keep her in my receipts. Damn it.
Beat, humiliated, mutilated, murdered, and cannibalized their slaves. Accurate history is teaching that George Washington's false teeth were made out of his slaves' teeth. Accurate history is teaching that Abraham Lincoln may have said some words and signed some shit, but he did not physically do anything to free the slaves. The white abolitionists also often get almost total credit for freeing the slaves. I bet you've never even asked yourself what the slaves were doing to free themselves, and the answer to that is most of the fucking work, including giving the ultimatum of war. But then we get a bunch of white people mad that their kids might feel guilty if we teach real history. It's not about your white child's feelings. Teaching accurate history isn't about white people's feelings, but that does sound like something that someone who's only ever been taught a white glorifying version of history would counter with. Ask why we ever felt like we needed to curate a false version of what white people did and did not do to black people to begin with, and then ask yourself why white-ass politicians are verbally attacking real history by calling it slurs, which is, by default, also the act of calling black people slurs.
So even to call them black is a slur when they're actually brown in complexion. You can see the images on the screen. This is an image of what Jerusalem looked like in the early 1900s, late 1800s. All right, I've seen the images in the ancient time. All right, but these people are brown. So remember that definition of black and how they push it. They push it and they push it. They even give you a Black History Month. All right. Then there's no such thing as black people. That is a narrative that they created. All right. Remember Mr. Anansi. All right. Or Mr. Nancy. Okay. Can't use that one enough. I just need to go ahead and save one of his speeches to my receipts. But let's find him real quick. His famous speech when he said, when these Dutch motherfuckers decided that you was black and that they was white. So they made that shit up, man. They clearly made it up. All right, can't find it that way. Okay, that's never happen again because that's such an important piece. I'm shocked that they leave it up on the internet, that they haven't taken it down, stripped it. All right, because it was a couple different speeches that he gave. Okay, and remember the 15-minute mark of this video. They try and attach the Black Hebrew Israelites, as they call it, to BLM, and there is no connection. All right, but without any further ado, some of that real history she was talking about.
Liberty Mutual is all she talks about since we saved hundreds by bundling our home and auto insurance.
Shut up.
A man got fucked.
Hold on.
Nancy. You want help? Fine. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, a man got fucked. Now, how is that for a story? Because that's the story of black people in America. Shit, you all don't know you black yet. You think you just people. Let me be the first to tell you that you are all black. The moment these Dutch motherfuckers set foot here and decided they white, and you get to be black, and that's the nice name they call you.
So that being the point right there, that blackness and whiteness is a made-up social construct. They lie. They are the Edomites, and you are the Edomites, and you are the Israelites. You so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, and you Israelites that are scattered among the heathen, that have the appearance of the heathen. Even some of you people that look pale. All right. You know, some of you people that look pale that know, I just watched a video not too long ago when Steven Tyler was informed that he had a lot of Nigerian blood, like something like 25 or 30%. And his daughter informed him that, and he said, I felt it. I've always known it. I've always felt the kinship and the connection. Well, guess what? He's not alone. Look at them thick Negro lips he has. You know, I'm willing to bet that his second toe is longer than his big toe, and he probably has a shovel teeth in his mouth too. But you know, just saying, because those are indicators, not definites. But it seems to be true in most cases. All right, it's evidence of something went on in your history that you weren't aware of. All right, but the truth is coming out, and it's very hurtful, and the so-called white man is afraid of the recompense that is coming upon him. All right, so and also I'm gonna have to declare the 1976 Copyright Act for that short clip. You know, fair use declared. All right, so with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash, Kwam Yasharallah, Abad Babal.